Welcome back, class. We're going to jump into the second segment of situational leadership. And before we get started, and then I mentioned this again multiple times, and as we've gone through these chapters, just always remember that academics, they're in a publish or perish type environment. So they have to get in and they need to publish, whether it's journal articles or textbooks. They are trying to develop and evolve new ideas, fresh approaches to management and leadership style. And a lot of the information, as I said earlier, it's kind of a rehash, rebrand, a different, take on what's maybe been used in the past successfully, or they've taken what hasn't been used in the past successfully and tried to tweak it so that maybe, especially as the work environment and the workforce appears to be significantly changing, especially starting with, I'm going to say March, April of 2020, when the country and a lot of companies shut down and everybody's trying to work from home. And I'm not sure it'll ever go back to the way the work environment and corporations managed the production process that was in place prior to like 2020. But it's going to be a challenge for leaders. And again, I don't want to say that, I hate the phrase, take everything with a grain of salt, but that's essentially what, I'm suggesting you do. Take these ideas, concepts, and remember these academics and the two individuals who wrote this book. To me, they've done a pretty good job of kind of providing you information and the way it flows. And we'll get into the first of these three, I guess, concepts or approaches they provide for you. And the first one's going to be the path goal leadership. Sounds pretty impressive, doesn't it? And it's based on the relationship between leaders and followers. It's all about transactions. That's the basis. And I think the way, that is one of the key phrases in this chapter is that, between followers and leaders, it's all about who benefits from the transaction. The leader benefits from, if it's a great relationship and everybody's doing their job, the leader benefits from a highly efficient, highly performing team and get a lot of kudos and, pats on the back from senior management, and the organization flourishes and everybody's happy. And the followers out of the transaction, they get salary, they get increases in salary, they get potential bonuses, they can get stock options, they can get additional benefits like working from home X number of days a week, or more vacation days, or they can get comp time if they come in and work on the weekend. So everybody, and I can't stress enough, both parties, leaders and followers, are getting something out of the transaction. Everybody's benefiting as long as everybody is pulling in the same direction and producing efficiently and performing effectively and hitting those goals. And again, I've always liked the approach of, you've got three levels of goals. You've got meets, you've got exceeds, you've got the stretch goals. And everybody gets something out of that transaction between leaders and followers if you're up in that exceeds area, or especially if you're up in those stretch goal areas, because everybody goes home happy with their benefit out of the transaction. And a lot of times, to get it to work, leaders adopt their style to fit followers and organizational goals and work environments. And again, it goes back to that flexibility aspect. If you're flexible as a leader and you can adapt your leadership style to different environments and different situations, you're going to be extremely effective. And before we got into this, the path goal is, as I said, at least they say in the book, it's more of a flexible type leadership style, and it's more on a day-to-day basis. So when they say day to day, I think they're kind of hedging on it's more of an operational type basis. And they've got the little chart in the text, and I think the chart in the text actually does a pretty good job. And they kind of walk down. They've got one column's followers needs, one column's leadership style. Then you've got this column over here that's, the effect on followers. And the first follower need, it's ambiguous work. And that can either be newly minted individuals coming onto the team. Maybe have never been, in my situation, maybe never been in healthcare before. I don't know. Or they've been working maybe at network management or medical management. They come over to payment integrity, or they come over to medical economics, and they're doing something different. Or it could be just the work is just ambiguous because, and I've worked over the years, with the exception of working for the Economic Research Service in DC, when I've got back into healthcare, all of my leaders, fortunately, have been the kind of individuals that when they give me a project to work on, or they ask me to do something, they just say, here's where we are, here's where we need to go, just go out and do it. And so I've been extremely fortunate. I like working in that type of environment. I don't like, micromanagers. And again, other than working at the Economic Research Service in DC, that was the only time I ever had anybody that was really a micromanager. Well, other than as a graduate student and working on my PhD, and that's kind of a little different situation. But the leadership style, when the work is ambiguous, it is directive. You're as the leader, you're trying to help you're trying to direct a team in an ambiguous situation to understand here's the information we have, here's the data we have. We need to take that data, we need to do something with it. Or here's our sales goals, and we need to take and develop these sales goals and put together a strategy that's going to help us hit those sales goals. So, it depends, whether it's marketing or sales or analytical work or putting together financial spreadsheets. A lot of times it is ambiguous, and you as a leader get to help make the determinations. But when it's really ambiguous, you need to be there as a directive and do more of the heavy lifting and provide them guidance on how to go from point A to point B. And the effect on the followers in that situation, it says it clarifies work, and it's rewarded by usually a successful end of the project. And then you've got the follower needs where they lack confidence. And that's especially in newly minted individuals that you're bringing onto the team. Individuals that may not have the expertise in your functional area, may not have any expertise in the workplace at all. And so, or they've been in the workplace and they're just not confident. They lack that confidence that it takes to kind of what they call grab the bull by the horns and then move a project forward. And at that point, as a leadership style, you need to be supportive. You need to help them. Maybe it's you're consulting with them. Maybe you sit down with them and to talk to them, Monday morning and say, okay, here's kind of where we think we're going to be this week, and here's what I'd kind of like to see you do this week. And maybe you just go out and touch base with them, once a day. And it doesn't even have to be about work. Go out and talk to them about, especially if there's interested in sports, talk about the ball games over the weekend, or during the baseball season, there's usually games every day, but talk about anything, talk about their personal life, and just help them build that confidence. And the effect on followers, it increases the followers' confidence, and that's what you want to do. And then the third follower need, it's more voice. And so the next two, the more voice and the work not challenging, there's where it starts to get a little dicey for you from my perspective as a leader, because individuals wanting more voice, you fall into that participative type of leadership style where you're working hand in hand with them. And, it kind of gives them a sense of control. But you need, and again, in a workplace, we've talked about it maybe in chapter 4, maybe it's chapter 3. They talk about leadership. It's all about control. Do you give up control to gain control? So that's where you're walking that fine line is, how do you handle those individuals that want more voice, and unfortunately, in some situations, they may want more voice, but they're just not ready. They don't have the expertise. They don't have the skill sets you need. Again, and I mentioned in one of the earlier chapters, when I worked at Health Net, we hired a lot of individuals right out of graduate programs in Southern California, and especially if it was an MBA program from San Diego State or University of San Diego or University of California, San Diego, any of those major universities in that kind of Southern California, San Diego area. They rolled out of those MBA programs and they thought they were the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they wanted a voice in everything, and they wanted to be the leader of every project, and they just didn't have the expertise. They just did not understand healthcare, and it was a really difficult group to manage. And then the fourth kind of follower need, it's work not challenging. And you're going to end up in situations where you have individuals where the organizational goals or the requirements for the functional area may not be that challenging. A lot of it may be routine, kind of cut and dried, and not intellectually stimulating. And you'll have individuals, your leadership style is achievement oriented, and you're trying to make it as challenging as possible, and you're trying to give them difficult projects to help them improve their leadership style and improve their follower, utility, if you use the term from your old micro classes. And what it does is the effect on the followers is they strive for higher level goals. And again, it goes back to, remember, leader, follower, context. The context, the organization you work for, the industry you work for, the work environment, sometimes it's just not conducive for those individuals that need some kind of a challenging work to keep them focused and on track. So it makes it really difficult for you as the manager, especially on a day-to-day basis. And when you're talking about the four styles of this particular type of situational management, the styles they talk about in the text, and it is the truth, they're neither mutually exclusive or rigid. Again, flexibility, this goal path, I guess it's actually path goal. The path goal leadership approach, it's day to day, and it's more flexible, and you apply more than one style simultaneously. And for some leaders and for some followers, that's difficult. Leaders, it's difficult for them to kind of apply multiple styles at the same time, and sometimes followers get confused. They see a leader one day doing, providing one style, and the next day he's done a completely 360, and they get really confused. But again, if you look at that little chart in the text, it's largely all about followers and their specific needs. So you as a manager, or you as a leader especially, you need to be focused on flexibility, and can you meet the needs and the requirements of your individual teams, or the followers that are making up those individual teams. So that's going to wrap it up for that particular situational leadership style. And the next one we're going to get into is the Hersey-Blanchard approach. And we'll be right back in a few minutes to get into that piece of it. Talk to you later.